not using suggestion to make someone think something is true when it isn't. And that's one of the myths. But in reality, we're rewiring their brains. I mean, this is the whole understanding of neuroplasticity now. They're creating new neural pathways, new neuronal connections at the rate of 1 million per second. I mean, this is the most complex structure in the known universe inside your head. And now we know how to get in and make the changes, but they do it all. And when we realize it's neuroscience, we trust the results and we find that it works.
Please note, the content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. So, Mike Mandel, it is an absolute joy to have you on this podcast.
That's very kind of you. It's nice to be here.
You are a wizard in hypnosis. And you started, apparently, and obviously very modest as well. You started when you were super young and in a very unconventional way. Can you please tell us about that?
Yes, we came from England, so I'm a Pommy. We came from England when I was just a lad. We lived up in Manchester, spot like this at home all my life. And then when I go to school, I'd be Canadian. I didn't ever know who to be. I'd bring my friends to our house. And which one am I? Am I this little lad or am I Canadian now? So anyway, we came over and my father was concerned. I was watching way too much television. And he said, I need you to read more. Any book you want, you can have. Took me to a bookstore. And the first one I saw was The Key to Hypnotism by Walter B. Gibson. He was a magician I knew of. And I took that home, memorized the contents, went looking for someone to hypnotize. And I was 12. This was 1965. And there were two neighbors next door at McLean's Animal Hospital in Toronto. It's still there. And at the top of McLean's is a deck because the vet techs and that their families lived there. There were apartments above it. The sons of the vet tech were Max and Wayne Gibbs. And Wayne was about, I think, 9 and Max is probably 7 or 8. And I said, can I hypnotize you? They didn't have a clue what I was talking about. So they said, sure. Max just took it as a big joke. But Wayne was a phenomenal subject. And his arm, I got him in such a deep trance, his hand became cataleptic. He couldn't move it. I proceeded to make it numb. And I can't remember, Jordana, if it was a hat pin or a big safety pin. But one or the other, right through the pad of his middle finger, like through the flesh, not through the skin.
I just have to say, equally as painful, Mike. Equally as painful.
Bad. He's looking at it, and he's just like, no problem. And his parents issued a cease and desist order. They didn't find it as interesting as me. But anyway, I kept playing with hypnosis for the next 6 years till I was 18. And then at a party at a friend's house, I had a breakthrough because I never got anyone very far into it other than Wayne. And then at that party, there was a guy playing guitar like Stairway to Heaven 500 times. And someone said, shut him up. I said, maybe I should hypnotize him. And they said, can you do that? And I went, oh, yeah, I'm doing it all the time. I'm lying. I've done it a few times. So he wants to be hypnotized, and so did 2 girls. And I took the guitar off him, effectively disarming him. Put the 3 of them in a trance, and bang, all 3 were gone. Like, I don't know what I did right. And my friend John Cole, whose apartment it was, he said, well, what happens now? I said, I don't know. It's never worked this well before. And he said, well, turn them into something. What do you mean, turn them? He said, make them cluck like a chicken. No. The Rolling Stones had been to Toronto fairly recently at that point. And so I said, the next person who enters the apartment is Mick Jagger, and brought them out of it. And all 3 of them had spontaneous amnesia. They're all like, when do we start? And I'm like, are you kidding me? You don't remember any of this? So we waited. And it was about half an hour, but I didn't know then. It didn't matter how long it would be because no amount of time can undo a properly set hypnotic suggestion. And so the door opens. This guy, Pat, a friend of ours, comes in from his evening job. Pat was from Kingston, Jamaica. By his own admission, he did not closely resemble Mick Jagger. So he comes in. I see Pat. I go, that's not going to work. And all 3 of them are like, it's Mick Jagger. They freak out. No one's more freaked out than Pat. He's wondering like what they're smoking and where the hell he can get some. And I snapped, because this is the 60s, right? And 60s, 70s. I snapped the 3 of them out of it. And I said, what did you experience? And the response set me on an interesting road, Jordana, because I realized at that point, you can do the exact same thing and get entirely different responses based on people's personal history, beliefs, and so on, tunnels of reality, whatever. The one girl said, I knew it was Pat, but I heard myself saying it was Mick Jagger. Okay, classic dissociation. Mm. The other girl said, no. He looked like a Jamaican guy, but I knew it was Mick Jagger in an elaborate disguise. It's pretty elaborate, okay? And the guy was the best. He said, I don't know what these 2 are talking about. I saw Mick. Mick walked into this room. I talked to him. I met him. I saw him. And he's going to carry that with him for the rest of his life. So the bug bit, and I kept playing with hypnosis and messing with it. Found I had a knack for it. And then I did various trainings and so on. But prior to that, January 29th, 1975, I flew out to Edmonton, Alberta. So it was about a 4-hour flight from Toronto, and was on a talk show there, Tommy Banks show. I was a telephone operator in Toronto. I was making $90 a week. Literally. Wow. If I'd not been living with my parents, I would have starved to death. But I was on the show, did a crap performance of a mentalism. In fact, did really badly. It was horrible. Saw it 2 years later in reruns and was just wanting to kill myself.
Have you recovered yet from that?
I have, fortunately.
Good
so anyway, the bug bit though. I mean, I liked the limousine and the stars. It was just fantastic, and the dinner. And so I quit my job. And I found a booking agent who would book me. And I went and did some hypnosis and stuff for some agents there in Toronto at a place called Music Shop. And they also booked Rush and different bands like that. So I got to go to Rush's stag, for their manager. It was really cool. But I just loved it. I thought being an entertainer and a mentalist and a hypnotist is way better than sitting there going, directory assistance can I help you. So notice anything wrong with it.
Only mildly.
Mildly. But so that was it. I wound up, Jordana, doing about 5,000 shows. Canada, US, 5 tours of Australia, Caribbean. And I think the last 5 years, I did it for 43 years. And the last 5 years, I didn't like it anymore. I should have retired at the 38-year mark. I could just tell I'd had enough. Being on the road, hotels, traveling alone, freaking hotels, driving hotels. And so I packed it in. I just kept doing keynotes. I was doing corporate keynotes for 3 more years. So I retired from the stage 6 years ago. And now I just teach. Now we have Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. And we have 3,000 students worldwide. Yes, you are. You and Sandra, you're the bookends for the hair. It's fantastic.
So you did stage hypnosis, which gets a very bad rap.
Right.
So
and that's unfortunate.
It is because
really
it requires such a epic skill set. Can you tell us about that and why it does have such a bad reputation?
It has a bad reputation, actually, going back to about the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. George du Maurier wrote the book Trilby. And it was a fanciful story of a hypnotist, Svengali, who controls this woman named Trilby. Trilby, I think she was a chanteuse, something, she was a performer. And the problem is, people didn't know it was fiction. And everybody reacted like it was real and that hypnosis was controlling people. It set it all back really badly. I'm not sure it was the date when it was written, but it was definitely George du Maurier. And there's been this sort of mystique around hypnosis, virtually none of which is based on science. It's based on anecdotal stories that can never be traced back to source. And stage hypnotists do have very good skill sets in certain areas. They're really good at rapid inductions. They're really good at calibrating who's in trance and who isn't. They should be good at being entertainers first and foremost. But
I like the use of the word should.
Should be, yeah. Well, I won't even comment on that. If I see one more freaking hypnotist whose promotional material, he's got either rays coming out of his freaking eyes or he's got his hands out like this. I said, why is it that all hypnotists try to look like kung fu fighters?
Oh my God. I was so hoping that you'd give us a rendition and you just did. That was awesome.
Oh, terrific. So a lot of fun doing it, but then I wanted to learn the serious side. So I began studying. I became an NLP practitioner in 1992 with Richard Bandler's strain. Then in the late 90s, I found out that my best friend, Michael C. Anthony, who is the best stage hypnotist in the world, you should have him on. Great guy. He was doing an NLP practitioner course with NLP Canada, a different company than the company by that name now, in Toronto, with this Cambridge linguist, Derek Balmer. But it was John Grinder's NLP New Code, the other one. But here's why he was doing it. He said, if you do this course, you get a 6-day Ericksonian hypnosis course thrown in for free. Now, I was not going to let him have a certificate in Ericksonian hypnosis I did not have. So it's purely a guy thing. I thought, damn it, now I got to do this every course.
I love you've said it's a guy thing. I call it an ego thing, but whatevs.
Well, it is that too. I did the Master Prac course with Derek Balmer, and I did his hypnosis training, his Ericksonian hypnosis training too, in John Grinder's New Code and the Ericksonian stuff. And at the end of day one, Derek took me aside and he said, why are you in my class? And I said, what do you mean? He said, this is kindergarten to you. He said, I can tell. I said, oh, good calibration. So the second day, he had me co-teaching the class. By Wednesday, he had me teaching with him out of the room, just gave me what to teach. By Friday, he had me testing the other students. And then he approached me and he said, I want you to be my hypnosis gun for hire. I said, I like it. And I said, on one condition, you let me rebuild your entire course from the ground up. And he said, it's yours. So I did. And then Derek passed away in 2000. And I did course on my own for a bit. But then here's the big turning point, Jordana. After doing different courses, the Larry Nims in California and Richard Hill online, all these different people, I started hanging out with Chris Thompson, who's my other best friend. In fact, Michael C. Anthony and him are best friends too, which is great. And Chris is one of the most amazing people I've ever met. He's an MBA and he has a mechanical engineering degree. And he wrote for Canada's national newspaper as a tech and stock analyst.
Sounds like a bit of an overachiever.
Yeah, bastard, eh? I mean, just so obviously. So he's such a nice guy, it makes it even worse. And he said he wanted to pack it all in, all of that. And he said, I want to work with you full time. I said, well, let me think about it. Yes. So he took over. I left NLP Canada after Derek died, and Chris took over, and he just started building. And so from being a hypnotist who is fairly well known in Southern Ontario, we're suddenly getting invitations to teach in Ireland and Brazil and Iceland and Romania and it.
That's awesome.
But I say no to all of them because we only do Hypnothoughts live in Las Vegas. Now, I don't even do England anymore, although I'd like to. I'm just done with traveling. I'm at our cabin right now, which is 600 square feet on a lake. And it's tiny.
It sounds painful, Mike. I don't know how you do it.
It's horrible. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it could have been, Jordan. I went on a walk yesterday, got back, and my neighbor, who's a fire chief, a retired fire chief, said there were 4 bears on this road yesterday morning. Be careful. 4! Just down the road. We get wolves, bears. This is Canada. It's just freaking amazing. Wow. No wombats, no galahs, unfortunately. You know, I love them all. Love your wildlife.
I'd take a bear over a spider any day, but separate topic.
A funnel web or a redback.
Redback.
Yeah, redback.
Can we play a little game of rapid fire comebacks in relation to myths that you've seen over the years? So I'm going to just shoot some hypnosis myths at you. And if you can just come back at me with whatever you want, let's see how this works.
Right.
Okay, I am scared of hypnosis because I'm going to get stuck.
No one's been stuck in hypnosis in the history of mankind. As the great hypnosis trainer Tad James used to say, pray for it to happen. It'll be the best place in the world to be stuck.
All right, Mike 1, Jordana none. I am scared I'm going to lose control in hypnosis.
Well, you won't take your clothes off when you're in a hypnotic trance unless you normally do that in your day-to-day life, in which case hypnosis will make it even easier. You're actually the one in control. You can control your own blood pressure in hypnosis, change your blood chemistry, so I don't think you have to worry about me doing anything.
2 to Mike.
You do the sense of humor, young woman. This is great. This isn't even my A stuff.
Well, I know you're fun because the way that you teach in your academy is super fun. So I came in with high expectations. I'm scared that if I do hypnosis, I'm going to walk like a chicken forever.
Do you walk like a chicken now? It reminds me of the person who says, doctor, after the surgery, will I be able to play the violin? He said, of course you will. Wonderful, because I've never taken it up until now. I said, no, I just pick it up and play it. It's much the same. It's just, that's mythology.
You can't hypnotize me, Mike, because I'm not gullible and I'm not weak-minded.
Who hypnotized you to believe that?
Snap. That's 4 to Mike, none to Jordana. I'm scared if I go into trance, you will make me reveal my deepest, darkest secrets and biggest wounds.
Now, that's interesting, considering I've been consulted by police on 3 murder cases, sex offenses, a drive-through robbery, and poisoning, and I've been unable to get information that the client did not want to provide. It's not going to happen. People won't reveal anything under hypnosis.
Mic drop there for Mike. And lastly...
Oh, thanks. Mic drop. Wow.
I'm scared if you hypnotize me, I'm not going to remember anything and you will wipe my memory forever.
Interesting. You cannot permanently wipe any memory, no matter how hard you try, because it's a protein called kinase C that builds the memories, and you cannot destructure it simply through hypnotic suggestion. However, on the other hand, some people spontaneously enter an amnestic loop and don't remember parts of it, but that's fine because it's their unconscious mind which is looking out for their best interest that decides.
Oh. And in our game of myths, Mike 5, Jordana none, bravo! Round of applause. Round of applause. Why is there so much fear around hypnosis? And second part of that question is, how have you seen that change or evolve over the years?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't find so much fear around it now. In the early days, just again, it was what we were saying. There's so much mythology, so much nonsense about it. People don't realize, as Dave Ellman said, it's a consensual state. They're in hypnosis because they want to be in hypnosis. As soon as they don't want to be, they come out of it. And if you give someone a suggestion that they don't like or don't want to accept. They'll either simply refuse to do it, or they'll actually come right out of hypnosis. So I don't know how this has developed, but it has gotten better, because 95% of all the hypnotists who've ever lived are alive today. I mean, it's in its biggest boom since the 1880s. It literally is. And well, 95% of all the scientists who've ever lived are alive today too. It's just the exponential growth, right? So for the first time in history, we're seeing all these wonderful schools erupting in some other schools, and people are generally learning really good skills, except for the ones who aren't. And if people choose carefully and get a very good grounding in hypnosis, they can help people, which is really the best part of it. One of my students in Toronto had, she was East Indian Canadian. She had a bad dairy sensitivity, so severe that if she had a little piece of palak paneer, a little bit of Indian food with cheese in it, paneer, in like 8 to 10 minutes, she'd be vomiting, stomach cramps and everything. And her husband is a medical doctor. So she was at the Hypnotic World Epicenter. She told me about it. We did a demo at the front of the class, did the allergy cure, or immune system retrain, as we say. And I said, test it very carefully. Go to an allergist. Don't just go and eat cheese. I said, she went upstairs, grabbed a bunch of cheese off a cart, wolfed it down, came downstairs, met her husband in the lobby about an hour later, and said, I just ate all this cheese. And he's like, what? She said, he fixed it. It's not part of his model of the world, right? But again, I didn't do it. She did it. It's her unconscious mind that made all the necessary shifts. I just gave a little nudge in the right direction. And that's what makes it so wonderful to see someone who is bound by chronic pain or something set free from it, or someone dying of cancer. Work with cancer patients, and I worked with a lot of ADHD kids and teaching them to go into trance. It's great to help people and see it last and spread through their life. That's what turns my crank, especially at this advanced age I'm at now. My wife said, don't ever talk like that. You're getting that way already. Don't start it too soon.
Don't bring it on. Don't act as if.
Don't bring it on.
What is the most surprising lesson you've learned from clients over the years?
How it really is true that they have all the resources to change. They do the whole darn thing. All we do is run the process, tell them what to do. One of my students, I saw her a few days ago. She came up with her family friend. She's one of my master hypnotists, Jennifer Johnston. And she had, just tell me this process. She ran with this person, had all this agony and emotional pain. And like one session, she fixed it, and she's just baffled. I said, well, it's supposed to work. I mean, it really does work. And that's the lesson, is we're not using suggestion to make someone think something is true when it isn't. And that's one of the myths. It's just power of suggestion. In other words, it's only they think it's that now. But in reality, we're rewiring their brains. I mean, this is the whole understanding of neuroplasticity now. They're creating new neural pathways, new neuronal connections at the rate of 1 million per second. I mean, this is the most complex structure in the known universe inside your head. And now we know how to get in and make the changes, but they do it all. And when we realize it's neuroscience, we trust the results, and we find that it works.
So the level of trust has increased from a client perspective, would you say, over the years as science?
I would think so, yeah. And not just trust, but the fact that they want hypnosis. More people are asking for it now, because I guess the good reports are finally getting out there somehow.
Yeah, somehow, through your academy?
I suppose it probably has something to do with it.
Not the other ones?
Certainly not the Brain Software podcast. Have you heard our podcast? You must.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
I was going to say, you wouldn't be interviewing me if you'd heard the podcast. That's my usual gauge.
Come on. So I loved in your academy how you spoke about, there's two things. Number one, ego states, and number two, how you hypnotize yourself when you're flying. So let's start with that. So you don't hypnotize for a fear of flying. You hypnotize. Can you tell us why? When you're on a long haul flight.
Oh, yeah, going into trance. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I had to do that. First time I had to do that was in 2004, going to Australia to do a tour. And I was leaving on April the 2nd. And the agent had sent me all the tickets and everything. I was ready to go. April the 1st, April Fool's Day. I'm carrying laundry down into the basement. We're taking stuff to pack. I slipped on the stairs, fell, and fractured my tailbone. Fractured it. I'd go to the hospital, had x-rays, and everything. He said, it's fractured. He said, just keep off it. Lie on your side. I said, I'm on a 22-hour flight to Australia tomorrow. He said, give me painkillers and stuff. So what I would do is I'd go into trance using one of the many self-hypnosis methods we teach at Mike Mandel Hypnosis. And
can we just
we'd go into trance for like 2 hours.
Can we just pause there to reflect on the tonality change? I just got my first-hand experience. That was amazing.
So anyway, I did hypnosis all the way there. And then I refined the technique. So I gradually turned it into any long flight. And it was actually 2004, an Australian multimillionaire rock star flew me down to Australia for my 5th trip to help with some of his issues. And I was there for working with him 5 days, morning and night. And I took a bunch of books down, stuff I wasn't sure about. And that was the flight that I mastered the technique. We get airborne and I'd conk out in self-hypnosis. And my brain would wake me up, not asleep, but unaware, just foggy. My brain would wake me up when either the drinks cart, the food cart starts to come through. And you go, yeah, have one of those, yes. Thank you. There's a couple of those as well. Thank you, good night. And then right back into it. It was the most wonderful thing. And so I turned up the speed. Richard Bandler said, turn up the perception of time. We've all gone through that, right? You're in a bank lineup with 8 people ahead of you, and 20 minutes can seem like 6,000 years. And then there's the other side of it where, you're out with your friends on a Friday night. And you go, oh, it's great. We had such a great time, aren't we? What do you mean, aren't we? We're done. What? It's 11:30. What? How can I? We have time progression and time dilation and all of these different things. And so to change it on a flight really isn't that hard to do.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
You like the way I gathered the threads up again at the end so you didn't think I'd lost the point of the whole answer? I was quite impressed with it myself.
So I wonder if the people next to you were like, how is he doing that? How is he literally waking up?
I was taking an aisle. I insist on an aisle. So they always had to climb over me. So I don't think I even remember anyone climbing over me. So they must have thought I was on some sort of, drugs, legal or otherwise. They're all legal in Canada now. So
I learned also from your academy that we have different ego states, which are different parts of our personality that come forward for different roles and responsibilities. And you had a particular ego state that worked against you, and then you learned how to connect with it. And now it's like a robot that controls your life. How's that summary?
I checked in with Master Controller this morning, actually. I literally did. Yeah, I've got it real quick now, and it's taken a long time. But I went through a stage of my life, I guess you want to tell the story, where I just blurt stuff out. But my wife is an Enneagram 6. Enneagram 6 is the anxiety type. They're loyal as the day is long. They're so dutiful, but their motto is, what if? What if? What if? To which my response is, what if not? What if not? Thank God I worried about it for those 12 years. I knew it would happen. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And I'm Enneagram type 8. And the 8s are the white knights. And we ride in and save the puppy dogs and the kittens and the ladies, except we're on the bad side. And then we get machine guns and go crazy in shopping malls. But that's a different side of the 8, the dark side. So with the ego states, I was saying stuff, forgetting my wife was an anxiety type. Well, not forgetting, just not taking into account. And I'd just say something like, 2 robberies in our neighborhood last week. What? And I scare the crap out of her and think, why did I just say that? And this was happening again and again and again. And I apparently had no control over this. Now, ego states are subpersonalities. They're not constructs. They're wired into our neurology, into our brains, neural pathways. You have up to 100 to 150 of them. Some haven't been active in years. And you have the same 10 to 15 you use on a daily basis. Well, this one was jumping in and saying stuff. So I went into a trance, contacted it in front of me, and created a whole process out of this called ego state transformation. And in my mind, I saw this guy, and he had a big head with a huge freaking mouth and a tiny brain pan, which makes sense, tiny little ears, and he was kind of unshaven and rednecky. And I said, what's your name? And the name is always the nature. And he said, Blurter. And I said, what do you do? What's your task? He said, I like talking about stuff. Okay, it's you. Anyway, I said, how would it be if you don't have to blurt anything out? This is all in hypnosis, right? I said, and we change your appearance, make you freaking awesome looking. Would you like that? Yeah, I sure would. Okay, let's shrink your jaw, first of all, so the mouth shrinks, there's less blurting. Let's enlarge your ears, so you actually learn to listen more. Let's enlarge your brain pan, so you're more intelligent. Let's bring it up to the full 162 IQ points with the rest of the ego states. So we inflate this. And then I said, I'll check in with you in a couple of days. The blurting stopped. I went back into trance. Now, it wasn't a couple of days. Jordana, it must have been 2 weeks later. I've seeing this guy. Looks like a freaking Armani model. He's got a pinstripe suit, a briefcase. He's got just a hint of beard. His hair's slicked back. He's got a little Italian sort of scarf on with his suit. And I'm going, who's this? This was Blurter. He's got a new name, Controller. He wants to take over control of things. I said, well, try it out. Now he's Master Controller. He sometimes does a renovation of the system. So now it's so good now. All I have to do is I'll notice Oh, I was on that person's case of it yesterday. That was unnecessary. And up here to the right, which is visual construct for the occiput, I see him sitting at the control panel. And I say, turn down the criticism. He goes, yep, I'm on it. It's done. And It changes because I've been doing it for like 2 years now and working with him closely. Yeah. It's a great way to self-integrate. You have the notes on how to do that, don't you?
I do.
Good. Do it.
That's awesome. That's
Keep
amazing.
the hair though.
So you clearly are very playful. You're very open. One of the hardest things for human beings is change. In your experience, we want to change. We want to get better with our health. We want to improve every area of our life, but we get blocked. So
yeah,
you love change. It's easy. What is it that is actually the hardest part at the root of it?
If I'm working with other people?
Yeah.
It's going to be threshold. Getting them to the point where they're able to congruently say something must change, that something is now, and that something is me. When they can say that congruently, I can work with them. And then they're already on the wall. I just give them a nudge and they'll fall onto the other side and they done got fixed. I have no conversation on I can recall at this point. I leave it to the defense to deal
that's
with
another
that.
mic drop moment out of my office. We're done here. Okay, awesome. So from a practitioner's perspective, we need those three elements. From a client perspective, there is a lot of unconscious stuff happening. It's like I want to be a certain way, but I don't have an internal belief that I can actually get there. So for people listening that might not have ever done hypnosis or have no idea that their unconscious is running certain parts of their life, what are some tips to be able to get more in touch with?
Okay, here's the story. And I'm going to tell you a metaphor I tell in my class. Once upon a time, many years ago, there was an agrarian community that grew peas and other vegetables and fruits, and that's how they made their money. And one man, they called him Poor Rupert. He didn't have much money, and he weighed nearly 500 pounds. And he lived in a small hut, and his specialty was shelling peas. And so when they bring the harvest in, he'd sit in his hut till late in the night with an oil lamp burning and scrape the peas out with his thumbnail. They'd fall in a bucket, and he had buckets and buckets and buckets of these. But one night he worked so late, he collapsed at the desk, fell off his chair, found sound asleep, and knocked the oil lamp over and started a fire. His hut was on fire, slowly at first. And a couple of village boys were walking by. Even though it was late, they saw the fire. They ran in. Poor Rupert's hut is on fire. We got to rescue him. He's fast asleep. They grab his arm, his leg. But they're little boys. It doesn't work. They run into town, get the best fittest, strong young men, and they come back. Get poor Rupert, lift him up. They can't lift him. He's dead weight. And they said, let's get the village elder. He'll know what to do. They run, pound on his door of his hut. What? They said, poor Rupert's fast asleep. He's been shelling peas, and his hut's on fire. He's going to die. We can't lift him out. He's too heavy. And the chief says, wake him up. Wake him up, and he'll get out on his own. That's how you get people through therapy.
Yeah. Were you always awesome at telling stories and metaphors, or is that a skill that's come? Because your color, your tonality, the character,
Oh, you're lovely.
Sorry?
Yes, and you're lovely. I'm not going to get my head out of the cabin listening to this.
I've got special. I've got some other good stuff written down just to feed that ego state.
It's actually, Jordana, it's because I'm a primary auditory accessor. Auditory sense is my primary sense. If I hear a piece of music and I like it, I never forget it for the rest of my life. I mean, after one hearing. So my wife and I were in the kitchen 10, 12 years ago, and I said, that piece of music is from a kid's show. It was a movie, The Pied Piper. I watched it. I was homesick with mumps. I was 9 years old. She went, no way. And they said at the end, and from the children's film, The Pied Piper, produced in 1961. I mean, it's crazy. Wow. This stuff. But that helps when bringing in the word painting, bringing in the language. Have you listened to, Rendlesham or Sidonia or Journey to the Castle? Then you understand. Yeah, I mean, I like to package metaphor that changes people's lives.
Yeah. So
and I'm giving you about 5 right now.
Just to circle back to auditory, for people that don't understand visual, auditory, kinesthetic, can you please explain that?
Yeah, 60% of people in Western society process most things visually in the occiput, the visual cortex in the back of the head. In other words, if I say, what was your vacation like? You said, oh, you should have seen the beautiful beach, the blue sky. They're talking visual terms. Then the second largest group is kinesthetic. They process the world in feelings, which is really useful. How was your vacation? Oh, it felt so good lying in the sun and Warren Beach. Auditories are the smallest group. That's me. You say to me, what was your vacation like? I say, it was the sound of the wind in the trees and the rain in the morning. That's what's going to grab me right away. So we all use all the systems, but one will be dominant. So when I worked with clients before I retired, I would speak in all of the different systems to them. And it would give me the way of mapping across stuff to make sure I'm reaching them. Yeah. Do you know the number one thing, though, for reaching a client on the side of the therapist is to actually care about the person. It's the number one thing that seems to build that psychodynamic loop, psychoenergetic loop between the two. If we really care about the person, because then we are absolutely focused.
Does it come down to focus, or does it come down to the client's intuitive knowing that you're actually there for their best interest?
Yeah, I'm prepared to say that might be the answer. Okay. You might be fully correct.
Hey, 5 to Mike, 1 to Jordana. What is the weirdest request that you ever had from someone who wanted to be hypnotized?
Oh my goodness, weirdest one ever. Most of their weird requests tend towards memory. People want to forget an event forever. They want to forget an ex forever. I said, I don't typically make people forget. I would make them process the bad emotion so they could think of it without a problem anymore. And most of it was moving towards, like when I was doing forensic stuff, working on murders and everything. It's the opposite. We're trying to get people to remember.
Do you get scared before, and then do you have to hypnotize yourself sometimes to go into scary situations?
I don't have scary situations. I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm a freaking wizard. I am the guy who knocks. I am the wizard. I'm the one who makes people scared.
Fair call. You are the wizard. That's back to where we started. You are the wizard. That's awesome. But you don't
scared.
Like, I don't know. I'd be scared if there was a murderer near me. I'd be like terrified.
No, I'm a hand-to-hand combat instructor. I taught the Ontario Provincial Police instructors, so I'm not scared of many people. Actually, none that I've met. I might be completely wrong. You know, but it's interesting, Jordana, you've opened a peculiar subject here because I was a very fearful little boy. Very. So you've touched on an interesting, not a nerve, but an interesting enlightenment here. I was terrified of the dark, terrified of the dentist, and I was bullied so badly and beaten up so much. It could have crushed me. But God be praised, it did not. It had the opposite effect. And I had a psychotic teacher who bullied me. I had phobia called altocellulophobia, which was so rare it didn't even have a name back then. It's the opposite of a fear of heights. Being in a room with a high ceiling would cause panic attacks for me.
Wow.
And we had provided the bell monitor at our school to ring the bell. It was a disc on the wall with a handle like a stirrup. You pull it and ding, because it was a 3-story school. And because I couldn't look up, because I'd be looking at the ceiling and started to have a panic attack, my teacher picked up on this. So he made me the bell monitor. So I had to suffer with this every freaking day. And so I had just skipped from grade 3 to grade 5 and then went into a mixed 5-6 class. I was a bright kid, but I was a small kid and I was a bullied kid. And I remember actually thinking, circa, 1964, whatever, I can actually remember thinking, one day I'm going to get smart enough and tough enough that nobody's going to do this to me again. Wow. And so that put me on a learning thing of different skill sets and stuff. And thank God, I'm not scared of stuff anymore. I've just dealt with it is all.
Yeah.
I hate it when people are afraid. I really do.
Is that because fear is a construct, but we allow it to guide and block so many parts of our life?
Yeah. And it's just a horrible thing to go through. All emotions are felt in the physical body. And my friend and brilliant trainer, David Snyder, he says, if you can point to where you feel it, you can change it. And that's amazing, you know, because it's easier to change something in a dissociative state. Oh, I feel this fear. What color is it? Well, it doesn't have a color. If it did, well, it's kind of a greeny yellow. Okay, grab that greeny yellow, pull it out. I can't. Of course not. Pretend you can. Put it out there. Spin it around. Put it back in. How do you feel now? Fear is gone. That's right. Silver bullet right into the sunset.
Is that your client voice? The fear is gone. We go all high pitch when we're being the client.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah. I don't know what's happening to my brain. I'll take no responsibility, Yana.
Speaking of no responsibility, what role does
What did you say? What did you just say?
I said, speaking of no responsibility.
Do you know what I thought you said?
What?
I honestly thought you said, speaking of nurses' abilities. No, we weren't. How can you not be having a breakdown?
Lost in translation. Oh. That was actually a masterful segue that just dropped in, and then you had to roadblock it by completely like tearing it to shreds, which means now we're at Mike 5, Jordana 2. Thank you very much.
Oh, man, you're right. I cannot refute that.
So as I was saying, speaking
Yes.
of something responsibility, a lot of us go through life completely unaware of the role that our subconscious, unconscious mind plays. How much does it impact our thoughts, our behavior, our patterns, and our approach to life?
Oh, Jordana, that's a great question. I got a great answer for you. It used to be considered that the unconscious mind was purely a construct, was a way of integrating the fact that we have, at any given moment, you're processing about 3 to 20 million bits of information unconsciously. So beneath the surface, we're not running our hearts consciously, at least nobody I know is. We can, for a moment or two, we can consciously breathe, but then the unconscious takes over. It's good at that stuff. And that used to be the belief that maybe it was just a way of looking at all the stuff that's happening below the surface. But then a British study a number of years ago showed the opposite seems to be true. It seems like the conscious mind does not exist. Now, is that freaky or what? If it doesn't freak you out, you haven't heard it. They're saying the conscious mind does not exist and is purely a construct to enable the unconscious to use bits of information to interact with the surrounding world. And one of the proofs for this is someone puts a box of chocolates in front of you. Now, if they put in front of me, I'm going to be looking for strawberry cream, orange cream, Turkish delight. Those are going to be the...
Sorry to stop you there, but I love dark chocolate, which means we can so easily share a box of chocolates and there's no issues.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Antioxidants, right? Every day you should eat 3 bars of chocolate. And so...
Thank you, Mike.
How did I get here? Where were we talking about bars of chocolate?
You was talking about the study that the unconscious mind is everything.
So put a box of chocolates in front of you, and you look at them, and you look at the legend at the top, and you decide to choose this one and eat it. But apparently, that's only what it seems. In reality, your unconscious mind has decided which one you would choose 6 seconds before your conscious mind thinks it chooses it. I don't know how they tracked all this, but it freaked me out gloriously. So that's it. The conscious unconscious thing. I don't even begin to understand it, but I've taken.
Do you believe it?
Grinder. I don't know. I don't have enough information either way. So I'm starting to look at it this way. To me, the unconscious mind is like cotton. I use it, but I don't know how it works. I'm wearing it right now with a Mike Mandel shirt.
So
there you are.
So you've spent your entire career just fluffing around with cotton, basically, is what you just said.
I spent my entire wardrobe fluffing around with cotton. The career of something else.
Oh, snap. Hey, look at that. What experience in your life has surprised you with a client or student transformation that's just made you go, just stop everything and like shut the front door?
I think seeing some of the ADD, ADHD kids change. I was sent a number of those. A friend of mine is a Toronto pediatrician. He trained in Vienna. Lovely, lovely man. And so nice to little kids. And he sent me a bunch of his patients. And to see these kids whose marks were terrible. And one of them came into my office and he had, so this would be about 1999, like house slippers on, even though it was winter. And his mom hadn't even noticed and brought him in. And it was one of those situations I'm saying, so Eric, how long have you, and she'll jump in. Oh, he said, I want to talk to him, not you, right? Mm. And so our model says ADD, ADHD isn't a disorder. A lot of it, we believe it's caused by subjecting people to too much television and visuals and video before age 2. Overstimulated visual cortex becomes too preferred. That's just a theory. But this kid, it followed the pattern of what Ted James taught. He said that ADD and ADHD are purely the inability to go into hypnotic trance. That's it. Because other kids zone out, trance out in class, they somehow pass. And so, little boy there, his mom says to him, well, he's roaring up and down the halls. He's got a tricycle riding up the upstairs hallway. And then sometimes I go up, he's just fast asleep. I don't know how he did it. And I said, well, he's right here. Why didn't you ask him? She said, Eric, how do you fall asleep some nights just like that? He said, oh, it's easy. If the cat's on the bed, I don't want her to leave. So I stay still. And then I wake up and it's morning. Bingo. He's giving me the cue. So I said, or the clue how to do this. So I said, Eric, see the picture on the wall there? He said, yeah. I said, Nancy Rinaldi is my business partner. She does the physical therapy here. That's her cat. Do you like that cat? He said, yeah, I like all cats. I said, me too. We're something called allurophiles. Oh, really? We're talking. And they said, close your eyes for a minute. and pretend Nancy's cat just jumped up on your lap and you don't want Nancy's cat to leave. Kid goes right into trance. I mean, just like that. Wow. So now I've just got to support it with direct suggestion. And when you're in class, you'll go into the state with your eyes open, just like you are now. And your mind will be like a vacuum cleaner, and you'll learn and learn and learn. So we see typically what would happen. Their marks would go up a full grade level in one semester, and the teachers would complain. He's not paying attention. He's daydreaming. He's daydreaming. He shouldn't be daydreaming. He should be watching that. His marks have gone up. So that always amazed me when that happened, that to see someone suddenly become a better student or.
Yeah. So you're a master of calibration. Like clearly, like
always be calibrating. Always be calibrating, young wizard.
Always be I know you've been calibrating me. I hope I'm okay. The curls, is the volume okay?
The curls are fabulous.
Thank you.
Just the curls.
So calibration, for people that don't know, is paying attention to every single physical cue so that you can see when someone's gone into trance and how they're responding.
And the audio cues that they're breathing and subtle sounds they're making. Yeah, calibration is to get a baseline. So when I had a client, I would sit down opposite them and I'd take a snapshot. I know what their facial tonus is, their facial coloration, how relaxed are they? And as they're talking, I'm building on this. So then at the end, when we fixed the problem, how will it be when you go into the office tomorrow and they've still got that snake there? I'm calibrating. If he goes, I think, like I'm going to be okay. We're not done. And if the person goes, what snake? I don't care. I'll just push it out. I'll pick it up. I'm fine. Then I've calibrated a shift. So we have to know where they are at the beginning to make sure we're moving them somewhere else. And that's one of the sad things. I find a lot of hypnotists, not my students, a lot of them, but not mine. So get that clear. When in a situation like that, there are times when people don't calibrate at all, and they don't even realize they haven't fixed the person. So they don't test their work. Well, test the work. Well, what if it's not worked? Well, it's better to know now than a week from now when they phone you and say, I'm still terrified of ants or whatever it is, or mustard. One of my clients terrified of mustard. Oh, wow. But you've got to check your work. That's where the calibration comes in. You've got to see that a change has happened.
How long did it take you to really master that? Because it's a very important, but also the skill set just goes deeper and deeper and deeper the more you practice.
It does. It honestly does. You can freak people out with it. And I was blessed, Jordana, because of being on stage for 43 years. I'm calibrating 30 people on stage, and I'm calibrating the response I'm getting from the audience. Are they laughing enough? I need to lean on the humor more. Do I need to now go faster? So you become a calibration machine just doing that.
How do you calibrate 30 people at once?
Well, you speak. You're a keynote speaker. You're calibrating your audience. You can tell. I mean, you can tell that you're killing, and you can tell you're kicking ass. Yeah.
But I can't tell if 30 people are in. I can't tell if 30 people are in trance at the same time.
Well, that might take a bit more work.
A little, just to
start practicing.
Thank you. So your legacy, your imprint is the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. What are you most proud of? What lights your spirit? It
actually isn't that. Because of Chris Thompson, he's taken me, as I said, from being a Southern Ontario hypnotist to being. Some people are saying he's the world's foremost hypnotist. Who knows? How do you engage something? So I'd like to be in the top 10, maybe, but most of the others are my friends anyway.
Are you going to be introduced on this podcast as the world's number one?
All right. Oh, yeah. He is without a doubt the smartest and funniest
decades
person
of experience
that he knows.
In his reality.
In its reality. Yeah, this cabin with wolves and bears. The thing that's great about it is Chris is a great guy. So he made me very financially successful. My wife and I don't have kids. We don't have kids in university. We don't have any debt. We get a cat. And we started thinking, how can we give back? And so when I leave the cabin on October 18th, I go back to my old high school, which is Wexford Collegiate and Performing Arts Institute. They train stage performers and visual artists and that. And I'm giving the first Mike Mandel Performing Arts Award to one student who they choose, who's showing exceptional skill, and these kids are amazing. Inner city kids, a lot of them. But shows the most talent, but also collaboration with the others and camaraderie, building everyone else. So they pick the kid, and I get to hand him a big fat check and give him my business card and say, keep in touch and pursue your freaking dream as a stage performer. Because that's where I was first on stage, was that school when I was in high school and the bug bit. I was in a band called Bludgeon.
That's awesome.
So it's in my estate, because I'm old. So 20 years, the award's going to keep going on. And you got to give back, right? It's like life is such a blessing. If we hoard it all, I think we lose it all. I love the line. My friend Freddie Jacquin loved it. It's Zig Ziglar. He said, you can get anything you want out of life if you help enough other people get what they want. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
You know, it really is. That's why we never say no to doing a podcast or anything. Always just give back, give back, give back. Because those are the people I like.
Yeah, that's awesome. And on that note, thank you so much for giving back on this podcast today. And how long is it going to take me to get from Melbourne to that school to win your award?
Well, if you walk,
I'll just hypnotize myself.
Take one of the lovely Melbourne streetcars. I mean, they're fantastic.
Oh my God, you're talking about a tram?
I am talking about a tram, yeah. Tram in England, tram in Australia.
What's a streetcar?
What about AC/DC Lane?
It's still there.
That.
Yeah, with lots of beautiful graffiti.
Yeah, I know. There's the AC/DC tattoo,
nice.
and the barbed wire on the bottom. Awesome. There we are. Thank you so much for having me.
Mike Mandel, you are amazing, and you've been a brilliant guest, and it's just been a joy to actually connect with you one-to-one, and I love your course. So for everyone listening, Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy is the absolute bomb.
Oh, bless you, my friend. Friends
Thank
forever.
Thank you so much. Friends
Thanks
forever.
Again.
Thank you.
And good night.